Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing. Today we are discussing a watch redesigned for 2021, but the example in my hand is a one-year-only custom edition for 2022 with a rotor celebrating 50 years of the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak. And this is the latest Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Chronograph. 41 millimeters in diameter in stainless steel. The Royal Oak Chronograph is 12.6 millimeters thick from lug to lug. The case is 51.5 millimeters across the wrist. The little end links, though, project further. 54 millimeters is the total distance across the wrist. We pop open the double deployant clasp, twin triggers release each side. We throw it on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, and you can see it wears well, though we are getting to the limit. It wears more like a 43 millimeter round watch. And while I think a 15 centimeter circumference wrist could wear this watch, if your wrist is any smaller, you're going to want to go with a 38 or 39 millimeter Royal Oak Chronograph. The watch is flat, however. Being only 12.6 millimeters thick with a sloped bezel, it'll slide easily underneath cuffs. All right, let's take a quick look at the hardware. Audemars Piguet has long done things the right way. Since the original Royal Oak was designed by Genta back in 1972, the point of the design has been to integrate the case with the lugs with the bracelet itself, almost as though it were an article of jewelry that just happened to have a timepiece attached. And that was Genta's intent, as he was first and foremost a jewelry designer, and he described himself as such. So this was his ideal of a watch elevated, and he would have viewed it that way, to the level of jewelry. The bracelet is a work of art. It's finished by hand, and unless we're talking about one of the strange versions, such as platinum, titanium, or ceramic, in general, steel and precious metal Royal Oak bracelets take 9 to 11 hours to finish by hand. And you can see there's a lot of nuance here. First of all, there's the bevel along the shoulders of the links, perfectly aligned from link to link, as well as with the lug hood. The flank of the link has vertical satin. The hoods of the links have longitudinal satin. There's even polishing at the outer faces of the intermediate links. That's only clear when you roll through the light. Removable links are fixed by screws. This is not how Patek makes its bracelets anymore, and I lament that fact. Audemars Piguet still makes bracelets the right way. In fact, they still attach the bracelet to the case the right way, using screws and bars, as they have since 1972. More expensive, but also more secure than a spring bar setup. There's a nice taper to the bracelet. We have a double deployant clasp. It is a twin trigger release, so it can't pop open accidentally. Internally, it's media blasted and satinated, and it feels robust enough with thick gauge steel to be used on a Royal Oak offshore. It is a sequential close, with one side closing before the other. Rolling around to the case. The case is imposing. Again, a 41 millimeter watch, but one that wears and reads like a larger timepiece. Character lines perfectly align from bezel through mid-case through case back. That is one of the elements I love most. You have a combination of satin and polish with sharp breaks between them. One of the most obvious changes for the 2021 redesign of the Royal Oak Chronograph, these more tapered and pointed angular crown guards. Now, another change that took place back in 2017 was an alteration of the long-running screw-down pushers on the Royal Oak Chronograph. Though these pushers are still shouldered for protection and aesthetics, you no longer need to screw them in or out to operate the chronograph. We do have a screw-down crown, though, and the watch is 50 meters water-resistant, which is sufficient for surface swimming. Now, you can see the white gold bolts in the bezel, as well as the shoulders of the chronograph pushers and the crown itself, all hexagonal, a long-running set of interlinked styling cues. The bezel is a combination of polish and satin with white gold bolts sunken within it. They should always be slightly recessed on a Royal Oak in good condition, and they are white gold, so you can see they're a warmer tone than the steel of the bezel. The rounded octagon bezel was inspired by a vintage diving helmet. That's what Genta originally had in mind when he created this design. The dial includes white gold logo, white gold hands, and white gold indices, and they use white gold for its beauty and longevity, as it will not oxidize or tarnish over time. We have plenty of luminescence, absolutely no shortage. Taking a quick look, you can see that the watch has plenty of luminescence for a modern sports timepiece. Now, taking a look at the dial, it's the Grande Tapisserie. It is the large hobnail. Petite would be on a jumbo, and mega would be on an offshore. And this watch sort of straddles the line between the two of them. The hobnail is super nuanced with thousands of tiny marks and textures that can only be seen at close range, and AP uses a pantograph lathe to take a large template with all of these features and transcribe its features onto a brass blank that is then black galvanized to create the dial you see here. It is a 19th century craft methodology that makes for slow but exquisite production. Now here's something I love about the new version of the Royal Oak chronograph. Since 2021, we get a flyback chronograph standard, so you can reset and restart the chronograph just by pushing the reset trigger. We get hacking seconds, which previously was not available on standard Royal Oak chronographs, and the quick set date function returns. Now, the reverse side is where this watch is special, as it includes a white gold rotor that will only be available for this model year, and it is beautifully made. Note that there's a differential finish here. Most of the rotor features satination, but the numerals are black polished. We also have many sharp interior angles where bevels meet. It's almost like a throwback to the hand-finished rotor on the pre-2012 Royal Oak Jumbos, when you knew hours upon hours of work went into that component. That's reprised here on this 50th anniversary 2022 only limited edition rotor. The movement is caliber 4401 and it replaces the old Frederic Piguet 1185 that had been used on the Royal Oak chronographs since 1997. The 1185 is a small movement, under 26 millimeters in diameter, whereas the 4401 is over 30 millimeters in diameter and better fills the case back. Of course, the 4401 is also an in-house movement and fully integrated, so Audemars Piguet wants to show it off. It never wanted to show off the Frederic Piguet, even though it was a worthy timekeeper and a good-looking movement. It wanted to wait until it had an in-house chronograph caliber to start showing off what was inside the Royal Oak chrono. And as a bonus, we have less of a disparity between case and movement size. Now we have a column wheel chrono here. You can see the column wheel in action. It has crisp column wheel action. So you feel it, you hear it. It's the mark of quality in a fine chronograph. We also have a vertical clutch. So when you start the chrono, there's no jump or stagger to the seconds hand. It starts seamlessly. And because it has a vertical clutch with no additional wear and tear on the movement while it's engaged, you can leave the chrono running full time. 70-hour power reserve, plenty of reserve de marche backing this. So you can have your seconds, your minutes, and your hours at center. Just ignore the chronograph register. It's very convenient. It's a 40 jewel movement that's robustly constructed for sports watches, and the balance, as you can see, is a Gyromax style free-sprung balance on a full balance bridge. I'm doing my best to show you this movement. The combination of the full balance bridge and the free-sprung balance makes it more shock tolerant. And unlike the old Frederic Piguet, which had a 21,600 vibration per hour beat rate, this is a higher beat rate, 28.8. So 8 beats per second, 4 hertz for potentially better accuracy. You can see well here that beautifully hand-finished rotor and that it uses ceramic rotor bearings for high efficiency. Another feature that I want to call out, and I'll do my best to show it, this watch actually has a visible vertical clutch, which is something I rarely see on watches, but it's just underneath my thumb. Vertical clutches are almost always hidden underneath bridge structures. So in attempting to make the vertical clutch as interesting as an older lateral clutch, Audemars Piguet made it a visible part of the movement. You saw the movement well. The most gloriously hand-finished part is the rotor, but there is hand finishing on the remainder of the movement. It just uses a judicious blend of hand finishing and machine finishing, as Audemars Piguet is wont to do on its mass-market watches. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.